This is Athletes as Educators with former pro basketball player, championship winning coach, and author Angela R. Lewis. Angie Lewis interviews current and former athletes who are passionate about sharing the lessons they've learned and the experiences that have shaped their lives. A resource for parents, a guide for student athletes, a source for current and former athletes, keys to transition off the court. Welcome to the Athletes as Educators podcast with Angela R. Lewis.
Welcome to this episode of Athletes as Educators. I'm your host, Angie Lewis. On the podcast today, we have one of my favorite coaches of all time, John Ishee. John Ishee was an assistant coach my freshman year at St. Louis University, has coached for 30 years at all levels.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, absolutely. Ecstatic to be here. Now, Ange, you just lost your credibility with smartness saying that I'm one of your all-time favorite coaches.
I just lost my credibility with what?
With being smart by saying that I'm one of your all-time favorite coaches.
One of my... No, you are great, Ish, because you really love players that you worked with, and you have this undeniable love for the game.
Well, I appreciate that. I do. I love basketball very much. It's done a lot for me being a young guy that grew up like most young people, wanting to belong to something and not realizing at the time, as young people don't, when you're 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, of what the world is like and what sports is supposed to develop in you and bring out and make you understand it. So my passion for all sports when I was a young person, football, baseball, basketball, you name it. If you could run and rip and play it, I liked it. But as I got older, I really developed a passion for basketball because my dad played basketball at the community college level, and he wasn't around a whole lot when I was young because of work. But young people emulate what their heroes and their role models and people that they aspire to get recognition from. So I'm no different than any other person that's walking the planet, basically.
How did you first become a coach? What made you start coaching?
Well, that's a great question. I really have to think about that for a second. Initially, as I said, I wanted to belong to something like young people do, and I really, really enjoy playing I played basketball growing up in the Mississippi Delta. We didn't play like inner city kids play on asphalt, on outdoor courts. We played on dirt. Mm-hmm. And, we played on dirt courts in the country, and we'd play, and when it rained lightly and kind of like dragging an infield at a major league, like at my favorite St. Louis Cardinal Busch Stadium, they drag that infield and spray it,
yep.
Get it hard and compact. And same deal, we would play. And as my parents moved to the coast of Mississippi, I gravitated. My best friends were on the basketball team. I tried out. And then I played, and I graduated from high school, went to college, initially wanted to go to law school. My undergraduate degrees in political science. But I just kind of, as I went along, I became I just wanted to teach the game because I wasn't very good at playing the game. I really wasn't. In coaching circles, I would be what you would call a tweener. I was too small to be a post player, and my skills weren't good enough to be a guard. I had pretty good athleticism, but I didn't have the skills to play facing the basket or the size to play with my back to the basket. And so the next best thing was coaching. And I just kind of evolved. The more you do it, it kind of grew on me, and I got satisfaction in other ways than actually playing and competing on the floor. I got that feel, or that what's the word I'm looking for? I fed that craving through coaching against other people and developing skills in others.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I remember most about working with you and coaching with you is that you are always very intense, and your relentless desire to help teach and help players understand the game was really key. What do you think are some misconceptions that players have about coaches and coaching? And I ask that because a lot of players want to be coaches or think the next natural transition is coaching, but may not really understand what it's like to be a coach.
Well, let's see, first part of that, I think some of the misconception about coaches, it's a two-way thing. One is the lack of really good player-coach communication, because I'm a baby boomer, as the label goes, and today's children are new millennials. I think I said that correctly.
Yes.
And when I was coming up, if you were told something from an authority figure, whether it be a coach or a teacher, a principal, an administrator, you did it because they had credentials behind their name, and you just took for granted that they had your best interest at heart. It was and it's a word that I use still today in coaching. The biggest thing with any group dynamic or relationship is trust. You have to trust the people and have faith in what they're telling you. They're not always right, but they have your interest at heart, and more importantly, they have the interest of the team at heart. And when I was growing up, whether as a bad player or as a assistant coach or as a head coach, is you would tell someone, here's what we're doing, and they would, okay, let's go. Well, now you have to explain to young people why you're doing it. Because, I used to say, you can ask questions, but don't question what I'm telling you. And today's student athlete's not like that at all. You have to convince them that here's if you'll trust this, you're not going to always understand it, but this is a little bit of why we're doing this. And so I think it's a communication thing between the student athlete and the coach, number one. Another misconception is with the change in society, in my opinion, kind of like the Toyota commercial where the dad is going to the car and he looks at his son's trophy and it says something like participant, and he's like, wait a minute, we won. Mm-hmm. We were the winners. And he takes to mark the Sharpie or whatever, and he changes and put champion on there. And, sports is something that's supposed to teach you teamwork, desire, disappointment, setback, achieving goals. I mean, a lot of different trust, a lot of different things. And one of the things, you mentioned the word intensity. I'm very intense. Now, as you get older, you pick your spots because, after 1,000 games or whatever, whether they're wins or losses, you can't dwell. You have to keep moving forward. And I think young people with the intensity side of it, it's like, I don't remember ever physically harming anybody. So they get they wear their feelings on their sleeve, and they, they may say, well, he doesn't like me, or she doesn't like me, but it's got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with making you better, and you not settling for less than what you have. And the thing about team sports is it's bigger than one individual part of the team.
Right.
People want to belong to something that's bigger than themselves. And I use the cliche all the time, you get from people what you demand from them. Well, you do. And, but a lot of times you don't realize things that you're not supposed to. I didn't when I was the age of a high school or collegiate athlete. There's certain things you just you're not going to realize until, they'll say an experience is the best teacher. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is.
True. Sometimes you don't know. I remember when I coached on your staff, I would finish all of your sentences. So you would start saying something and I'd jump in. And I think I was like 23 or 24 at the time. And you would just say, Coach Lewis, calm down. You don't know. Like, let me finish, because I thought I knew more than I actually did.
Really? I don't even recall that.
Oh, I remember it vividly, because you would give me that look like, if you would just shut up and let me talk, you could learn something.
That's good and bad in my, because I was the same way. When I worked the first guy I ever worked for in college was the late great, in my mind, M.K. Turk. He was the head men's coach at Southern Miss for like 25 plus years. And he would start a thought, and I would try to guess at what he was going to finish it, because I was so eager to be right and to learn and be a part. And he'd say, Ish, that's the way he talked, Ish, if you'll let me talk, I'll tell you. That's the way he would say it. And, I think that just comes with the territory. But, that's what made you a really good player, because it's a lot easier to calm someone down than it is to fire somebody up.
True. That's a great point.
As a coach, you always want people that are eager, because, even players that do bad things, if they compete, you can, as Bobby Knight would say, the legendary coach in Indiana, who, like anybody's not perfect, but this would not be a politically correct statement, but he would always say, Bud hits bench relays message to brain. So someone that's competitive and you want them you want to modify their behavior, the great equalizer in basketball is, okay, sit down until you figure out you're going to do it the way I want to do it, or you're not going to get to play.
Right.
Now, someone that's not as competitive may not do that, because you have different types of players on every team, and you only have one ball, obviously. So there's always a great mix of how you blend things together to get the most for the squad. But,
True. Well,
I don't know. I remember a few times giving you the look, as you say it, because I've been given the look many times. And when I was an assistant coach on different staffs, my best friend in college athletics is a guy named Larry Tidwell, and we used to call it the glad hand. And during games, you'd give a suggestion, and he'd turn and he'd throw out his right hand at you like he was posing for the Heisman, like, I've got this, just relax. And, that was our cue to be quiet.
One thing that a lot of younger players who turn coaches struggle with is that player-coach dynamic. What's some advice that you have for younger players who are coming out and interested in coaching at the collegiate level?
First and foremost, be yourself. You have to be yourself. You can take bits and pieces from people that you have learned from, but you will learn what not to do as much as you will learn what to do. Over time, you will develop your own philosophy and style, and the way to get things across. But one of the worst things you can do, in my opinion, is try to be somebody that you're not, because, coach did it this way, and this is the only way to do it. I don't think that's a formula for success. I think you have to have an open mind, and, a lot of young coaches, including myself, is when you first get in it, you may think that, okay, because I learned this from this person and we were great, that's the only way to do it. Well, that's not the case. Variety is the spice of life. Mm-hmm. So my suggestion would be, as long as you prepare and you come to be as good as you can be and try to be a little bit better tomorrow of yourself than you were the previous day, you'll be successful. But if you try to be something you're not, or if you think there's only one way to do it, or if you think you know everything. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it 30 years, and I learn multiple things new every day. Or I relearn something that maybe I had forgotten. So that would be my advice to young coaches.
Having the desire to constantly learn is really important. And as we mentioned, you've coached.
Absolutely.
As you mentioned, you've coached at a number of different levels. What have been some of the greatest highlights over 30 years of coaching?
Number one highlight is watching people that you've coached, like yourself, go on and be successful. I mean, that you just can't put, as the MasterCard commercials, that's priceless to me. I mean, when you see someone that was a high school student or a college student, and then 10 years later they're a doctor or they're a lawyer or they're helping young people or they're an author like yourself or they're mentoring young people, that's the and they're giving back not just to the game, but they're giving back to their communities. They're giving back to the world. That's the greatest highlight. Then you have the goal-oriented thing in sports of conference championships or going to NCAA tournaments, and probably from a personal, selfish standpoint, having reached the goal of being a Division I head coach, which I was for 5 years at Southeast Missouri State University, and we won back-to-back conference OVC championships. The team that you were part of, we went undefeated in conference on the road, which is very hard to do at any level. Looking back on that, and we played Oklahoma in the NCAA tournament when they had the Paris twins and were ranked 9th in the country. And with 4 minutes to go, we were only down 4 points, and we were giving them everything they wanted and then more. And just watching the players have success, and I was coach of the year one year in the Ohio Valley. That was really special, being recognized by your peers and doing a good job. Those are some of the highlights. Travel, it's unbelievable, the doors and opportunities that something that you would do for free I would, because of my passion for it. If I knew I could pay my bills, just do it for free. Right. You get to go, you get to travel, you get to meet people, you get to have interaction, you get to develop relationships. You get to see things, through basketball. I've been to Nairobi, Kenya. I've been to Moscow, Russia, and Red Square. I've got to see Niagara Falls, the Grand Canyon. Been to Alaska. Places when I was growing up as a kid in Greenville, Mississippi, barefooted, walking down railroad tracks, hunting rabbits with kids and playing basketball in the out yard. I never knew there were worlds out there that, through time and through sports I've got to experience. And so those are some of as I look back on my career, I hope I still got a few good years left, but those are the highlights. I mean, the stories, as you know, with coaches are endless. I mean, they're just endless. But the main thing is relationships with young people and seeing them have success in life.
It is pretty amazing, though, when you think about how sports opens up so many doors, as you mentioned, and places you get to see and relationships that you build that you'll have for a lifetime. When I was a freshman in college and you were an assistant coach at St. Louis University, I could not have foreseen that we would be having this conversation now. We're talking 10, 15 years later. And so you just don't know why people cross your path.
Well, you don't. And, I'm kind of like foot fungus now. I don't ever go away. Once I like somebody, you can't get rid of me.
I want to shift gears here when we talk.
But you're right, and the thing about life with sports is, you basically you have acquaintances and you have friends, and friends, you cannot talk to them for 10 years, and they can call you or see you, and you just pick right up right where you left off at, and that's, to me, that's the difference between a friend and an acquaintance. And a friend, an acquaintance calls you when they need something or want something, and a friend just calls you to talk to you or to see how you're doing.
Right. You're absolutely right. And I think that it's important. It's important that we talk a little bit about Pat Summitt, who
Absolutely
has had a tremendous impact on the game for coaches, for players, for fans. I mean, everyone around sports understands the impact. Will you talk a little bit about your experience and reflections on Pat Summitt's life?
Well, number one, my experience, I had the awesome pleasure of coaching in the Southeastern Conference for 3 years at Ole Miss at the University of Mississippi. And obviously, Tennessee was the standard bearer for women's basketball for many, many years, and is still a great program under Holly Warlick, who was an assistant with Coach Summitt for a long time. But the thing that, she had an unbelievable impact on so many young people on the game, not just at Tennessee and the 8 national championships and, over 1,000 wins, but she grew the game of girls basketball in the state of Tennessee like no other. And, the game has reached the level that it's reached for young women and girls, a great deal due to her. There was, and part of that is coming through with, she's like the John Wooden of the women's game. John Wooden, the legendary coach of UCLA. But the thing about Coach Summitt that amazed me when I was at Mississippi, it would not matter. You used the word intensity a while ago.
Yes.
At the Southeastern Conference tournament, okay, you have the table set up at between games. You can sit there and scout the opponent or the next game. Now, she would have beaten someone 40 points twice.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were on her side of the bracket in a conference tournament, she would sit there and watch the entire game with her assistant. She wouldn't leave at halftime. I mean, there's nothing. Her work ethic was incredible. And I don't think a lot of people realize that's the other thing about young coaches. The work ethic that you have to be successful at the level that she. It's one thing to win it. It's one thing to get it to a level. It's a lot harder to keep it at that level, and to have that standard of excellence for so many years, just like what Gino R.M. is doing at Connecticut today, or Tara Vanderveer at Stanford. That it's her passion. You talk about passion now. Mm-hmm. Passion and work ethic was just unmatched. And it's really, really. My mother has Alzheimer's and other health issues, and I read a really good article online last night at 11 o'clock by Gary Parrish for CBS Sports about Coach Summitt and a meeting he had with her, drinking a beer poolside at a coaching administrative hoop summit out in California, and just how down to earth she was, and just like just a regular person in your presence, and but she wasn't a regular person because her degree of success and passion and work ethic and impact on so many lives in coaching and out of coaching, just, very few people can say they were the very best of what they set out to do.
Absolutely.
And she definitely was. And it's just, it's a shame that that disease is so unforgiving. It's it just right. 64 in today's world is young. That is young. And for her to, the article that Gary Parrish wrote talked about how all the stuff that she probably left our world not remembering half the things that she accomplished and great memories, which is really sad. And but our thoughts and prayers obviously go out to her immediate family and the Tennessee Lady Vol family. But she unbelievable impact on not just basketball, but on sports and on society. It was unmatched for many, many years.
True. She was amazing. True legend, and has this legacy and raised the bar so high. I remember we played Tennessee.
No, she created the bar.
Right.
She welded the bar. She was the first one with a bar. I mean, you're exactly right.
And it has never gone down. It's only gone up. And the rivalry, and her presence created this level of competitiveness, yet class and respect and honor for the game that everyone saw and everyone heard anytime you listened to her or watched her teams play. It was
no question.
Truly remarkable.
She would beat your brains in now. She was big time competitive. She would, if you were in the league and you were in the way of something that she and her team was pursuing, just like UConn, she would beat your brains in. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the thing that's the other thing you try to instill in young people. Okay, if you do your very best, you hold your head up, you control how hard you play and your approach to it and your attitude. You have nothing to do with the other bunch. But rest assured, if you weren't playing to win, they would not turn that scoreboard on and keep score. And I think a lot of youth today, they don't understand that. It is competing. You compete in the classroom for grades. You compete radio and television for ratings. You compete at businesses for customers. Everything you do is a competition. And the thing that she brought, as you said, honor, integrity, and fair play to it, as John Wooden and other people that were great at the very best at what they do. But rest assured, it's competition, and I think a lot of times young people don't understand that.
No, especially if you haven't been extremely competitive in the past. But I think with the onset of the game raising and the visibility of the game, that kids are going to have to become more competitive. I mean, the nature of the game has changed so much over the years that to not get embarrassed, like you mentioned, people have to step up and be willing to put in some work.
You get out of it what you put into it. Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, if you're not, you're going to get left behind. That's my whole point of talking about competition and competing. Mm-hmm. I saw one of her quotes yesterday, and I don't remember it verbatim, word for word, but it was basically, if you put in the work and you outwork your opponent and you have a group that does that, then that can overcome, that can change the fortunes against people that have more talent, mm-hmm. that aren't doing that same work or have that same mindset of together. Then you see that every day at every level with teams. I mean,
we do.
I mean, there's a lot of teams at the professional level that have great players, but because of not buying into the coaching style or the coaching system, or they're more about me than we, those teams don't have the success. And it's my favorite definition for the word team that I've ever run across. It says a group becomes a team when each person in the group feels good enough about themselves and what they bring to the group that they can respect, admire, and appreciate the contributions of others. And when you do that, and you play for that teammate, and you're happy for that teammate that's really, really talented, that maybe brings something to your team that you don't have, But you know what? Hey, I bring this, and, you know, the collective efforts of everybody you can accomplish more than the individual talents of one or two. I mean, it's always been that way.
It is.
And it doesn't matter what the sport is.
Right. You're absolutely right. Ish, I want to close with one thing that you and I have talked about over the years, and I would love your insight for our listeners. A lot of high school athletes will be hitting the road this July, and there will be a lot of coaches, and this college recruiting process seems to be a point of stress for a lot of families. Can you give some insight on how families can best be proactive and take control of the college recruiting process themselves?
Number one, understand that word recruit is just another word for sale. And so what you've got across those walls that are watching the young people play are salespeople. They're trying to sell their school and their program to the young person. So anything that you take, you know, just like don't take it at face value, research it. I mean, in today's world, you've got so much access to things through the internet as far as you can get their roster, how many players play your position, what year are they in college. But I would say the number one thing for me, if I had a daughter or a son playing a sport and they were being recruited, is I would want to know my relationship with the head coach, because assistants come and go. They leave. They take better opportunities. They change profession. Do not fall in love with a recruiter and go to the school based on that fact. It helps, but you need to have a relationship with the head coach, and then how honest is that head coach with you? Does the head coach deal with your mom and dad? Does the head coach go through the proper channels? If they don't, there's probably red flags. Don't take people at face value. Research. Listen. Always be nice. Never close the door just because you don't think you want to go to a certain school. If that person, handle things the right way. Return phone calls. You can't say if you get offers, you can't say yes but to one person. But you can be nice to those that recruited you the right way through the process. Don't assume because someone writes you letters or send you text messages that they're going to offer you a scholarship. Don't assume that if someone offers you a scholarship and you don't say, "Hey, I want to do that," that it's going to be there a day later.
Yep. Because
coaches have to protect their basketball family. And if I'm recruiting you and I say, Ange, I want you to come play the power forward for me or stretch forward. You really fit in good to what we do. We'd like to have you. And I've got a full athletic granted aid scholarship for you. But if you say, well, Coach, I really appreciate that, and you're one of my top 5 choices, okay, and then a week later, someone that basically brings to the table everything that you do, and they tell me they want to come, it's hard for me to say no because I've got those players already on my team that are counting on me and my staff to sign them good teammates.
Exactly.
So don't assume it makes assume the old acronym in athletics is it will make a I'll say donkey out of you and me, and hopefully your listeners can insert the word that starts with an A for donkey.
I'm sure they know what you mean. All of that is such great advice, Ish. Thank you. You're right. Recruiting is
very
sales.
Welcome.
Recruiting is definitely sales, and sales is not a dirty word. It's some people are selling really great programs and great schools and great colleges and universities, and then also just asking questions, to your point, makes all the difference in the world, so that parents can know what they're getting into and student athletes can know what they're getting into.
Right. And here's the other thing. You know, you have to be true to their own self. People get caught up in these numbers, Division I and Division II. Mm-hmm. Only 1% are ever going to play basketball after college. So don't get caught up in, you know, I got to go to a high major school. You may go to you may get a high major offer, go and sit on the bench for 3 years. Now, if that's okay with you, and you want to be a part of where there's 80,000 at a football game, yeah, go to University X. But if you want to play, there's nothing wrong with going to a Division II school or an NAIA school, because you're being paid to play. You're being paid the cost of your education. Okay, so when you look at it in that context, you are a professional. Exactly. You're just not doing, you know, you're a professional. Your profession is to represent the school that gives you that academic scholarship when you go out on road trips. And I mean, so, you know, go make sure you're going to have a good experience. So be true to thy own self. Know what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right, Ish. I just really appreciate you offering me the opportunity to be a college Division I coach. That was just amazing, the time, winning the conference title, going undefeated on the road. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me this morning and share your experiences with our listeners.
Oh, absolute pleasure. And before we sign off, I just want to say, and I mean this with all sincerity, I have been blessed beyond anything imaginable. And Angie Lewis, you're one of my top 20 all-time favorite people, not just players, people. And I sincerely mean that. Now, you ain't number one. Opal Margaret, my mom of 81 with the Alzheimer's, she's number one.
Absolutely.
She's unmatched, but you're in the top 20. You're definitely in the top 20. You're very welcome.
I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Coach Lewis.
This is Athletes as Educators.
Thank you for listening to the Athletes as Educators podcast. Connect with me through the Athletes as Educators Facebook page or at Athletes Educate on Instagram. Be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and go over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. For more resources and information about today's podcast, you can check us out at AngelaRLewis.com.